Nigeria records 304 new cases of COVID-19, its lowest number of infections in 2 months.
Clerics react to planned reopening of worship centers in Lagos.
I feel so excited, and not just me. I'm very sure that the body of Christ here in Lagos State is jubilating.
Chief of the Air Staff pledges use of modern equipment in fight against insurgency and banditry.
We will continue to enhance your precise and effective prosecution of all operations.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss mitigating violence in the forthcoming Edo governorship elections.
It is now commonplace for elections in Nigeria to be preceded by peace accords because going to the polls is like going to the theater of war.
That's right, Kirian. Peace accords, which have become a feature of our elections since to the 2015 general voting, are usually enthusiastically endorsed by party leaders and contestants. But the behavior of some of their followers has left a lot to be desired, with the violence often unleashed to gain political advantage.
And ahead of the Edo State governorship election, built for the 19th of September 2020, there are already telltale signs of violence, even during the electioneering campaigns.
Certainly, you're referring to the widely publicized clash amongst party followers right in front of the palace of the Oba of Benin in the ancient city. And that event took place on the 25th of last month, following which political parties have been trading blames as to which party triggered the mayhem that was characterized by sporadic shooting and the use of dangerous weapons by political thugs.
Now, if that is a false state of what to expect in the electioneering process leading to the Edo governorship poll on September 19, then it leaves a sour taste in the mouth and it requires all hands to be on deck to nip every trace and inclination to violence in the bud. The Oba of Benin has warned politicians not to turn Edo State to a war zone because of their ambition.
Well, the battle for the soul of Edo State is on, but what is the role of the actors, their followers, the umpire, and indeed the security agencies to ensure that the process is violence-free and that there is a level playing field for all the actors?
Already, there have been allegations and counter-allegations about the pulling down of billboards in Benin City, the state capital, and there is heightened tension in Edo State ahead of the polls. Indeed, the political temperature in Edo is rising, and the political actors are talking tough. What needs to be done to put the situation under control?
Well, that's our focus on Good Morning Nigeria today. My name is Kingsley Osadolo, and I welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you as always live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. And we're broadcasting from the nation's capital, Abuja.
And I'm Kirian Umaya, joining Kingsley to welcome you to the show, the very first edition for the week. And of course, we are going to be bringing you our usual complimentary segments, which will include a newspaper review, business, and others. For now, we'll bring you the morning news, and Nolin Ebril Ame is standing by. Nolin, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you too, Kirian. Good morning to you and Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the morning news. Nigeria recorded its lowest number of confirmed coronavirus infections in 2 months as the Nigeria Center for Disease Control announced 304 new confirmed cases for the 2nd of August 2020. So far, 43,841 cases have been confirmed, 20,308 cases have been discharged, and 888 deaths have been recorded in 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. The 304 new cases are reported from 15 states as follows: Lagos 81, FCT 39, Abia 31, Kaduna 24, Rivers 23, Plateau 16, Cross River 13, Ebonyi and Ondo 12 cases each, Ekiti and Edo 11 cases each, Benue and Nasarawa 10 cases each, Ogun 6, while Gombe recorded 5 new cases. On the state's case chart, Lagos maintains the highest with 15,267 cases, followed by FCT with 3,972 cases, while Oyo is third with 2,768 cases. In the meantime, the coronavirus curve is still on the rise globally as governments employ different measures to flatten it. In Nigeria, Lagos remains the epicenter with a high rate of community transmission.
We are almost 100% compliance with the safety rules. Almost 100%. If there be anything left at all, it will be because we don't have enough sanitizers to distribute. Because we have made some and we distribute.
We also have a bowl, washing hand bowl. We put it at the entrance of this gate for people that are coming into this community.
And using this opportunity to tell the entire nation, Lagos, Langbasa in particular, Kingdom, that the COVID-19 is real.
Friday 7th and Sunday the 9th of August are the new dates set for churches and mosques in Lagos State to resume partial activities with 50% of their congregation at a time. Reactions have trailed the news as worshippers have begun countdown to the reopening.
I feel so excited, and not just me. I'm very sure that the body of Christ here in Lagos State is jubilating that they have got the freedom to worship their God as in the capacity of congregating.
Nothing beats that one-on-one interaction, seeing people, getting to know how they are.
Now to politics. Stakeholders of the All Progressives Congress in the Southeast, particularly in Imo State, have reached a consensus to uphold the desire to protect, expand and sustain the party's victory in the zone. The unanimous decision by the stakeholders was reaffirmed at a press briefing in Abuja.
We also encourage all members of the party to discontinue all legal suits as resolved by the last NEC meeting and supported by His Excellency, President Muhammad Buhari. We, the stakeholders of the party, as a party faithful, shall continue to support our APC-led government of His Excellency, Governor Hope Uzodimma.
Meanwhile, the APC candidate, Pastor Osage Izeyamo, has eulogized the leadership qualities of former national chairman of the party, Adams Oshomole, which he says stands out as a man of the people. Izeyamo expressed this thought during a rally at Fuga to honor Oshomole.
The only reason why I agree for them is because of this man. I want to assure you that things will change.
On security, Chief of the Air Staff Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar said aircraft hangars are to be constructed to ensure effective maintenance of aircraft for smooth operations in the fight against bandits ravaging Katsina State and its environs. The Chief of the Air Staff addressed troops of Air Component Operation Hadarindaji and 213 Forward Operational Base Katsina, explaining that this would facilitate the fight against armed bandits in the northwest.
To provide necessary tools to enhance your precise and effective prosecution of all operations, such as infrastructure, modern equipment, and so on.
That's the morning news. For now, the program continues with Kingsley and Kieran after this break. I am Nolin Ebel Ame. Thank you for watching.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Coming up next is Newspaper Review. Newspaper reviewer Bayo Atoyebe is not in here. We expect him, of course, to join us sometime later on in the week. He's still obviously observing his Salah holidays. Remember, he was with us on Friday. So let's begin by taking a look at the papers that we have this morning. We have the Punch, Daily Trust, as well as the Daily Sun. From the Punch newspaper, above the nameplate says, Bristol pilots and engineers begin strike over alleged discrimination. That's on page 22. We must review Chinese and other loan agreements. Reps insist. Anti-insurgency war prolonged by sabotage, according to Zulum, who is the governor of Borno State. Details of that story on page 6. On page 21, marketers stockpile petrol and August price may hit 150 naira per litre. Details of that we can find on page 21. And late story of the Punch newspaper says poor preparations threaten students' resumption this week. With 2 riders, most schools lack hand-washing points, running water, PPE, and others. Benue, Sokoto, and other SS3 students resume Tuesday, Gombe and Enugu undecided. Once again, Benue, Sokoto, and other SSS3 students resume Tuesday, while Gombe and Enugu undecided. NAF stations drones in Katsina and Gombe to battle bandits. That's on page 8. And coronavirus tests in 61 laboratories free, says NCDC. That's page 20. CAN, Christian Association of Nigeria, protests Southern Kaduna killings and demands protection. So those are the headlines from the Punch newspaper. And incidentally, Bayo Atoyebe had me when I was indicating that he probably was still in his Salah mood. And so he decided to come in here by special arrangements. So we just brought him onto the scene. Now, Bayo Atoyebe would like to welcome you to this edition of Newspaper Review.
Thank you, Kingsley. Yes. Good morning, Korea. Good morning, Nigeria.
You look slightly drained from the celebration.
Well, the drain is actually from the heavy drizzle, which makes coming here a little bit difficult. But talking about difficulty about schools resuming, Lagos State has indicated that students in exit classes should be resuming on Tuesday. And apart from that, the governor has indicated that the level of livelihood has improved considerably. Therefore, there's now going to be some measures of ease down. And Lagos State is now to allow some public gathering, which now, before you couldn't have more than 20 people, they've now extended it to 50 persons now. Schools are also to open for SS3 and TEC3. Places of worship are to open on Fridays only within a week and Sundays only for Christians. However, those who worship on Saturday will also be free to go to church on Saturday, and it is only once in a week. However, at the entry points, all the COVID-19 protocols must be observed. Considerably, from all indications, the COVID-19 has been slowed by Nigeria in the sense that if we look at Friday, we had 462 cases in 16 states. Out of the 36 states, only 16 states reported cases. On Saturday, 386 cases were reported in 18 states. And on Sunday, 304 cases. So far, we now have a total of about 43,841 cases. If you compare that to parts of the world, you will see that we are not doing too badly. For instance, the world over, the cases now are 18,166,550. South Africa alone has crossed the 500,000 mark. they registered 503,290 cases. In Nigeria, we are still at 43,841.
Some survivors, up to 20,000 in Nigeria, right?
Yes.
Survivors.
Yes.
So active cases are just about 20-something thousand.
Yes. So if we adhere strictly to COVID-19 protocols, I think we can defeat COVID-19 early.
Okay, can we go to the Daily Trust?
Yes,
let's take the headlines on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. There is sabotage in counter-insurgency of Operation. Zulum insists. Zulum, of course, is the governor of that state. It's on page 3. Then, 2023 presidency, it will be unfair for APC to field northern candidate. That's according to Ndume. It's on page 36. How SMEs accessed 50 billion naira CBN loan. That's on page 19. Now, chemicals in preserved beans cause cancer and kidney disease. With 3 riders, applied quantity exceeds limit for human consumption. Guidelines on pesticides must be followed, according to experts. Now, why I avoid inorganic chemicals in beans preservation, as according to a farmer. Now, the bottom of the Daily Trust newspaper front page, Southern Kaduna can seeks more action as CP deploys additional troops. That's on page 6. Parents reject 25,000 COVID-19 test levy for students. That's on page 6. Man invests breast cancer detecting bra to save rural women. Man invents breast cancer detecting bra to save rural women. That is very interesting. The story is on page 8. Bio.
Yeah, let's start with the story about paying 25,000 for COVID-19 tests. Kingsley just read the story that NCDC says COVID-19 test is free. But as a condition to resume in Ogun State, all students will have to present a certificate that shows that they are negative before they will assume. Now, they went to a private testing point where they were asked to pay 25,000 for every test for people. Some parents are lamenting that they have 2 or more pupils and they have to pay 25,000 times the number of children. And at that same spot, students of public schools will come and do the test free, and parents of those in private school will have to pay 25,000. They are demonstrating, saying, we are all taxpayers. Why this discrimination? So that is another challenge.
It's a pertinent question the parents are raising. If the tests are free, then why would the laboratory operators or the test center operators be requiring students from private schools to pay for it? I think the state government should designate test centers where pupils can go to, whether from private or public schools, to go and obtain a certificate of a negative result, as it were, from those particular centers. And the fact that you have a negative result now does not mean that 1 week later you cannot test positive.
Yes.
Depending on the way you are exposed, either to the virus or otherwise. So unfortunately, sometimes you'll find the way that people try to make a business out of everything. Now that schools are resuming, you can be sure that unless the Ogun State government comes down decisively on this, everywhere else around the federation, people will say, okay, we won't charge 25,000, just pay 10,000 and then we'll give you the certificate. And after a while, it becomes perfunctory. Pay the money, you get a certificate, no test is conducted, and people are just collecting money.
If care is not even taken, what will happen is that you pay the money and you'll be given a certificate without necessarily going through the test.
That's precisely what I'm saying.
But the point is the private school doing this based on its own initiative, or is it supported by the state government? That's another question to ask. But who gave them the authorization to ask students to pay money for COVID-19 tests? Because NCDC never charged anybody for testing. So how could now a private school be charging people for testing? In fact, which laboratory are they using to conduct the test? Do they have their own private laboratory in the school? And who authorized such laboratory if it is in existence? So where do you now go and get the test?
I think it's a test at the specialist hospital at Abuja, and I think it is the one that is recognized. But the question is, why will students from public school go there and do the test free, but students from private school will be asked to pay at the same spot.
Who gets who benefits from the money? Is it the school or the hospital? Where will you pay the money into? Is it the school account or the hospital's account?
You pay at the point of going for the test.
To the hospital.
At the hospital.
But meanwhile, at the hospital, it should be free from all indications.
Yes.
It should be. It should be. And in any case, Abeokuta is not the only location where pupils go to school. Ogun State is a big state.
Yes.
So where will those who are in Ijebu they go to? Where will those who are in Odobolu go to?
Places.
Those in Shagamu, where will they go to? So I think these are things that they have to, those are Songo Ota, where will they go to? So everybody will go to Abeokuta to go and run a test?
Well, the story that Kirian read about Governor Babagana Zulum is saying that there is sabotage in the system. This occurred when last Wednesday he had traveled to Baga with the aim of inspecting those areas so that the IDPs can return. Unfortunately, his convoy was shot at. And Babagana Zulum is the second time he's been shot at. In February, he was coming from Bama that time, and on reaching Konduga, his convoy was shot at again. But security experts say that VIPs visiting war area usually attract gunfire because the warriors want to make a point that establish their presence. If you recall, during the Gulf War, when President George Bush was to visit Iraq, they made sure that up to the last minute, nobody was aware. Even many of the press crew who was on the Air Force One were not aware of where they were heading for. And the CIA had instruction that any moment they notice a leak, Air Force One will have to turn back to US. They always keep it top secret. And it's not the first instance. Former Governor Shetim Kashim, he too, his convoy was shot at when he was going to Gobaru Ngala. So one needs to be very careful. If you also recall, when President Muhammad Buhari was coming from the AU, at the point where 30 persons were killed between Damaturu and Maiduguri, he stopped over there to condole the people. Soon after he left, because that visit was a surprise visit, soon after he left, there was an attack at one area, Polo Maiduguri, within the outskirts of Maiduguri. So we need to be very careful when our VIPs are visiting a war area. But the emphasis the governor is saying that he's asking question, why is the insurgency not ending? And he is alleging that there's a possibility of sabotage, and the commander-in-chief must take extra look into the situation.
Yeah, well, it's a good observation, Kinsley, because even during the regime of the previous administration under Goodluck Jonathan, he had to accept that the issue of Boko Haram is pervasive and that it can be found at every quarter. And that the people should be very careful about it, because Zulum's movement, of course, it usually should appear on the manifest of the governor on a daily basis, right? And if he's attacked on his way to wherever, he was built to go, it means that information leaked, right?
By the way, the Nigerian army is investigating the circumstance. And there's this human interest story I'd like to draw attention to. A 32-year-old woman who was returning from Bori to Port Harcourt. Unfortunately, she was not wearing face mask and she was arrested. Apparently, the police now took them in the vehicle. They said allegedly they were taking them to the police station. An inspector branched her to a guest house and raped her from night to dawn. She was smart enough to send a WhatsApp message, and she raised a lie. I can't believe this is happening to me. He wants to sleep with me. I am dying. He won't let me pick my calls. He threatens to seize my phone. The PPRO in Port Harcourt, Nnamdi Omoni, has confirmed this report. And the Commissioner of Police has asked the officer to be arrested, and he has been sent to the State Criminal Investigation Department.
Well, the law should take its course.
What kind of... wow.
It's unbelievable, but the law should take its course. That's the lead deterrence.
Exactly.
Before you took the editorial, there's a lead story you read from the Daily Trust. And I think that that's a public health issue that we often pay scant attention to. The way grains are preserved from the farm to the markets, and more particularly the markets. If you recall, a couple of years ago, there was the alarm about the use of sniper sprayed on beans in particular, and other grains, and some of them were even using on tapioca as a way of dealing with infestation of weevils and other pests. Now, this continues to persist. It is one reason, for instance, why our agricultural exports are rejected by the EU. If the EU cannot take it, are we saying that we are so strong that we are the ones who can take it? And the consequences are there: cancer, kidney, and indeed other ailments that affect our internal organs.
I think part of the problem is that locally here, we don't apply quarantine system. Right, and when you are exporting any produce from Nigeria to EU or any other part of the world, it should pass through quarantine service, which is part of Federal Ministry of Agriculture. Yes. Right, and if that happens, that means that, just like you said, EU will not accept. But locally here, nobody is concerned about that. That's so right. People just preserve, according to some even use carbide. So they use all forms of chemicals to preserve, even to perhaps induce bananas to ripe or induce other fruits to ripe.
Ripening of fruits.
Exactly. So they use some of this to do. So I don't know. We are really in a, I don't know.
Well, it's a head hazard, and apparently it is based on two things: either greed or ignorance. Ignorance in the sense that people do not know that it could have consequences. But 2 years ago, if you remember, after there was tremendous effort to encourage export of agricultural produce, one of our Achilles heel was that chemicals that were used for some of the grains. Because of that, many of our grains were rejected. However, they now came with a campaign telling people that before you eat your beans, you have to wash it thoroughly with boiling hot water to cleanse it of all those. But apparently, our agriculturalists must educate our farmers the danger in using those chemicals.
If you must export local produce, farm produce, agricultural produce, right? You must start from the planting, soil texture, the kind of manure or any kind of fertilizer that you use. That is where it starts, from the planting. If you must export, that is what the law, international law says. But after that, when you do your harvest, then it passes through quarantine service, and then they will issue a certificate, which of course it will be honored by the EU and other parts of the world. It's a standard certificate that should be honored. So if you don't follow that process, you may find it difficult to export any of our agricultural produce.
Kieran, that's fine for export. We're talking even about local consumption. I mean, we have at least 200 million Nigerians, according to varying estimates. Our population should be of concern to us that any of the markets you go to where grains are sold, there's virtually no control, no regulation, exactly. And there are no inspectors.
Okay, can we go to the editorials now? Yes. Editorials say, worrisome emigration of Nigerian doctors.
Well, we took the same editorial, if you remember, sometime last week. Again, it's predicated on the last attempt by about 51 doctors trying to immigrate to abroad. And what is the essence of it? There are three factors that lead to this immigration: an attempt for greener pastures, for better pay, and also a conducive environment to work. If you recall that day, I gave an example of my experience in Saudi '89, where Saudi Arabia had this very big, so many story, special hospital for sports. The doctor, the professor who was in charge is a Nigerian. And when we got there, Prof, what are you doing here? He said, my brothers, how can you do it? How I wish I had this facility back at home. I would have enjoyed to be of service to my people. So the question remains, through those three factors: the conducive environment, to have the facilities and the equipment, because if you come to the personnel, Nigerian personnel, medical personnel, are in higher demand, because they have found out that through our medical school system and the nursing school system, our products are able to cope abroad. In fact, nurses are one of the highest demand in the United States of America.
Exactly.
So the only way to do is that to stop this idea of a prophet, our doctor as prophet, not being honored at home, we create the conducive environment.
But I think that the COVID-19 saga, has actually attracted super funding, if you like, for the health sector in Nigeria. The Minister of Finance said that a number of times on this program, that government is trying to ensure that the health sector is funded, right, adequately funded, to provide those facilities we're talking about. But the young doctors who are trying to live perhaps a greener pasture is mostly the reason for that.
Well, that's true. I mean, if you look at it from the financial point of view, it will go back again to the question of how we fund our tertiary institutions. Tuition is free in federal universities. So will people who benefit from free tuition just take off after a couple of years, after they have finished their housemanship and youth service, take off with all those benefits and then take their skills to another land. Forget the so-called diaspora remittances. You and I don't depend on the diaspora remittances to survive. But the fact, if you were to undergo medical training, any of those countries abroad, it's costly.
Yes.
It's costly. And some of the students will have to take out loans, and they take several years to repay those loans.
Yes, that's
so the government spends so much money training medical personnel, and a few years after they graduate, they just take off. So we have to review that aspect, in addition, of course, to providing a conducive environment in terms of work, facilities, and all of that.
Indeed, if you remember, in the past era, when there was this federal government loans for students, you will be bonded after you have completed to make sure that, yes, you have benefited from services of government and you cannot just live like that. You have to provide services. Some states are doing it. Kano State and I think Yobe State send a high population of their natives to Egypt and other Malaysian countries to train as doctors. They are on bond. When they come, there's a number of years they have to serve the state government.
I think that's a better arrangement if there's a bond. But then, yes, tuition is free, but that does not really mean that medical students do not pay some form of fees, while in school. And I remember that they spend, I think, almost 7 years or so.
6 years,
6 years plus, plus 1 year of housemanship, before they graduate. So it's not a very easy call, to undertake as a young person when you have to spend 7 good years for you to get a medical certificate, and then we have paid some fees, not necessarily tuition, but we have paid. But that does not mean they should not be patriotic enough to serve the nation reasonably. I mean, before they begin to leave the country, emigrate to other nations because of the conducive nature of service, in those countries.
Indeed, there's a federal university in the Boeing named after former Vice President Alex Okweme. A medical student was required to pay, apart from the fact that tuition is free, about 1 million. Other extra costs. And a parent was lamenting one other time.
All right, Baya TV, we'd like to thank you for being around.
Thank you, too.
We'll see you again tomorrow. Okay, it's Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We're taking a short break now. When we return, we'll be discussing the forthcoming elections in Edo State and the looming violence as well.
All right, well, thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria up to this moment. Our conversation this morning is on mitigating violence ahead of the forthcoming Edo election. And before we begin the discussion, here is a background by our correspondent, Abdul Salam Jibril.
Election-related violence, sadly, has been a major feature that has characterized Nigeria's electioneering process since her return to democratic rule in 1999. Experts have attributed high-stakes winner-take-it-all contests as well as do-or-die mentality of political players as major contributors to election-related violence. These political players are all too willing to exploit simmering ethnic, religious, and regional divisions to gain political advantage. As such, the signing of peace accords has come to precede elections in a country in a bid to commit political actors to peace, but that too has not helped the situation. The violence that trailed the commencement of the Edo governorship election campaign has already raised concerns that the governorship election, scheduled to hold on September 19, may be marred by violence. Already, the governorship candidates of the 14 political parties participating in the imminent poll and their supporters have initiated meetings to design fresh strategies that will help avert violence during and after the elections. Also, Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, and other stakeholders have assured that the September 19 poll will be hitch-free. Nonetheless, some political experts maintain that for violence-free poll to be achieved in Edo State, security officials, INEC, and other stakeholders within and outside the state will need to work at curtailing the excesses of the political actors before, during, and after the elections. What are the strategies and measures needed to prevent violence in Edo State? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will speak to these issues shortly.
All right, many thanks there for that background. We have guests joining us to discuss this issue here in Abuja, as well as from our network center in Benin, Edo State. First, let's welcome Mr. Chris Nehikari. He is the spokesman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in Edo State. Mr. Chris Nehikari, pleasure to have you with us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much.
Now, also there with him in the studios, would like to welcome a member of the All Progressives Congress in Edo State, that's APC, Honorable Washington Osa Osifo, a two-time commissioner in the state. Mr. Osa Osifo, pleasure to have you with us on the program this morning.
Same from here. Good morning. Good morning, Nigerians.
All right, and we equally have here in the Benin studio John Babatunde Kokumo, MNI, the Commissioner of Police, Edo State. Honorable Commissioner, you're welcome.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Good morning.
Here in Abuja, we have a regular feature, Ezenwa Nwago. He's an election observer and the chairman, Partners for Electoral Reform, as well as the convener, Say No Campaign Nigeria. You're welcome.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, our pleasure to have you with us again on this conversation. Let's begin from Benin, which is the capital of Edo State. And interestingly, we have the Commissioner of Police, who is, of course, seated between the two persons we have invited from the APC and the PDP. Commissioner of Police, against the background of reported instances of violence, of course, the most prominent being the clash of supporters at the entrance to the palace of the Oba Benin last month, and the alleged destruction of billboards and other campaign materials, plus assault against persons who are said to be either displaying the stickers or posters of one or the other political parties in the election. Tell us something. Is all still correct ahead of the Edo elections coming up next month?
Thank you very much. We are putting in place necessary proactive measures to ensure that we do not have a repeat of what happened at the Palace of His Royal Majesty in Benin. Meanwhile, investigation into the incident is ongoing, and as soon as we are able to unravel the mystery behind this, we'll definitely make this public.
Well, all right, Honorable Commissioner. Well, you have told us that investigation is ongoing. We've also heard of certain altercations between members of the two parties. We also heard that some are complaining bitterly about pulling down of billboards and the removal of other signs that shows a party is running for election, like posters and what have you. Are you also investigating that? But from your experience as a Commissioner of Police in that state, how are you planning to contain the two parties, the followers of the two parties, who are usually the people that start all these fracas? For instance, what happened at the Oba's entrance is not new in Benin, because of course Benin has been characterized by such a violence during election. And with that historical background, what extra effort is being made by the Nigerian police in Benin to contain these characters?
Thank you very much. We have actually embarked on advocacy, bringing in all the stakeholders and ensuring that we drive in the need for us to have a violent-free elections. And beyond that, we've equally improved on police visibility as a proactive measure, so that the police will be able to nip in bud possible violence. And also beyond that, we have this police visibility at different levels. We have it at the level of the wards, we have it at the level of the local government, and it cascades upwards to the level of the state.
Okay, CP Kokumo, thank you very much. We'll return to you in the course of the conversation. But let's also bring in now the two gentlemen who are beside you there, Mr. Chris Naihare, as well as Washington Osa Osifo. First with Chris Naihare. I mean, for outsiders who are observing the Edo governorship election, the threat of violence is something that doesn't appear to bode well for the smooth conduct of the elections coming up in just about 7 weeks. The clearest impression that has been conveyed is that the governorship election this year will be the equivalent of a war. What are your thoughts?
Thank you very much. Actually, it's actually very embarrassing that Edo is being brought under this kind of spotlight for violence. Edo normally has been a very peaceful state, especially during elections, and we have enjoyed that peace in the last 20 years. Unfortunately, this year's election is taking a dimension that is unacceptable to most Edo people and also to our party. And I think what is causing this now, I won't say because of the stake, but I think it's because of the attitude some people are taking to politics at this point in time. We did not accept it, and I think everybody should condemn it. The police is doing their best to make sure this does not happen. The governor, who is our candidate, has over the time repeated it that violence should not be part of the election system, and he has tried all he can as a governor to advocate for peaceful conduct of the election. But unfortunately, we've had issues, especially from the APC. I'm sure the APC will also throw the ball back at me, but I think it has to be said that there's a trending video on the social media whereby the candidate of APC was actually encouraging and motivating APC members who call themselves lions and tigers to go out on election day to disrupt election, threaten, intimidate, and scare away voters. And I think this is unacceptable, and something has to be done immediately to nip this kind of motivation or this kind of instruction in the board.
Well, we're also going to bring in Washington Osa Osifo. You've just listened to the PDP spokesperson. He's already has pointed to the fact that what is going around in the social media is that the APC member is instigating followers to foment trouble on election day. We'd like you to react to that. And again, also, if you would, look at this entire scenario as it is at the moment. This is the electioneering campaign period in Edo State. With all that has been said, with all that has happened, what is your take with respect to how this election could be conducted free and fair without involving your followers who may be violent in nature?
Well, thank you. I want to thank you again for having me, and sincerely, I'm glad to be here. First, I want to say that I am grateful to God that the Commissioner of Police is here. And the responsibility to secure this state as it is today rests solely under his leadership. And I want to commend him. Even before the program started, I was telling him outside that I do not have his job, because when you are working in a system where you have desperate actors, of course, they will draw you into their irresponsible conduct, and it becomes your responsibility to fix it. Now, for me, sometime last year, when the House of Assembly wasn't inaugurated properly, I featured in a sister station to report this issue in Abuja, that the governor is introducing a very dangerous dimension to Edo politics, and that he unleashed mayhem, sent his chief security details to recruit boys, use guns and other dangerous weapons to attack us elected members in a hotel. And I told everyone that that portended very dangerous signals for the election that was to come. At that time, he was fighting tooth and nail to get the ticket of the All Progressive Congress, our party. On that program that day, I spoke to the conscience of the president, the Inspector General of Police, of course, who I met severally to report to him and also suggest ways and means of taming it at that time. It is also on record. I don't believe so much on what happened in social media because it's an unregulated highway, but for the regular media like yours, you know, you can attest to this losing fact, and I'm sure you have seen it, if not on NTA, but on sister stations, that the governor had boasted severally that I am the governor. If anybody comes to do anything against you, this is in a rally. You have my authority as the chief security officer to deal with them. That is an irresponsible statement as far as I can tell. Now, let me tell you something. The peace of a society cannot be more than the leadership of that society is willing to offer. In this case, a state definitely will be rowdy and, a state of compromise if the leader, particularly in this case, the governor, who is suspected to live above all board, despite the fact that he's contesting election, he should set the pace for unity. He should set the pace for people to know that his ambition to become the governor again is not worth the blood of anybody. If he goes on a radical mission, like I was telling the CP before we came, I said, look, if you give this platform for your supporters to think that they are supporting you, they will hide under it to do heinous crimes, including armed robbery, kidnapping, and all manners of things. Courtism will take its rights to the highest tone and all of that. So that is what we are saying today. Now, talking about what happened in the palace. Is it not even embarrassing that we are discussing what happened in the palace of our revered Oba? Our Oba is a very peaceful man. On that day, members of political parties were going to different locations. And in going to different locations, they met at a point. Just as my brother Lucidi alluded to, that Edo has been a very peaceful state. And I disagree with your feature, that Edo is known for violence when it comes to politics. That is not true. Rather, I want to stay with my brother Nehai here. Edo is always a very peaceful place. And I can assure you that even this election, it will also be peaceful. But my fear and worry was that when PDP was peaceful until the governor joined. This crisis started between APC and APC, spearheaded by the governor. The only candidate that is different, that has not been in the political sector or arena of Edo politics, is the governor. He is the stranger between us because we have always been together. Negai knows me, I know Negai. All political actors on APC, PDP, we have always been together. Crime, criminality, violence, excessive use of force was never in our agenda in winning election. We have always gone out to preach to people, sell our manifestos. If they accept, fine. If they do not accept, then it shows on election day. That has always been it. But the singular element, I am a student of politics. And analyzing the stake is also my training. Now you have to identify the singular personality who was not there when there was peace. The singular personality in this case who was not there is Godwin Obaseki, the governor of Edo. Today he has come. He has brought a new dimension that is alien to our political family. And that is why we are seeing what we are seeing. I commended and also recommended to the CP outside that CP, please, no matter the height of anybody, please don't say this is the governor and this is not the governor. Feel free to use the law and use your position to deal with anybody who would want to stand on the head of justice and stand on the head of democracy.
All right. Thank you very much, Washington Osifo. But, gentlemen, we know that, of course, this is a very challenging time for particularly the leading contestants in the election. But as much as possible, we will refrain from making allegations against particular individuals who are not immediately available to respond to those allegations that have been made. But your points are noted. Let's very quickly bring in now Ezenwa Nwangu. Ezenwa Nwangu, a veteran of election observation, and Edo, of course, is already on your radar, along with Ondo. Very little is being heard about Ondo, except for the fact that they are trying to sort out who their candidates are, and they are virtually through with that process now. But what is your reading of the lead-up to the Edo governorship election next month?
Well, I actually just returned from Edo, and incidentally, we were privileged to meet with the Commissioner of Police, John Kukumo, who is there now. My first approach would be that there's a stirring of the water to get the fish. You know, politicians in their characteristics manner would naturally, election being a competitive enterprise, will throw everything they have into getting the trophy. But the important aspect of this process is that there are regulators. There are people who should regulate and rein in behavior and misbehavior in this enterprise. So in the election stakeholdership, of course, INEC should take a more deeper look at processes, pre-election processes. The security agencies, not just the police, have responsibility to reinvigorate the election consultative committee, the election security committee for excess, they call it, the election committee on election security committee. They should reinvigorate that process in a way that intelligence is shared early. Because the police is the leading agency for security, but there are other people who play very pivotal role in ensuring that, you know, there is people behave themselves. There is nothing you can do with the two gentlemen in that studio in a way that they will not market themselves. And Edo, if you remember in 2016, you always have this election risk analysis that puts Edo in very serious red. But the actual play within Edo itself, you know, does not support most of that, because at the end of the day, you will see that the election in most parts will go very peacefully. So my call is that the regulators, and in this particular case, the security agents, must not continue to behave as if murder during election period is not murder, because we have an attitude to elections where assault is passed away as is election period. If there are people who caused mayhem in any part of the state, whether it is during election or before election, there are laws that deal with that. So to say, oh, we are investigating, is that attitude that is, it happened during election? Because otherwise, there is no reason why people should not be currently cooling their heels in the police station or even being arraigned in court. So the time lag between when that event happened and the investigation period shows you our attitude to electoral crimes and electoral offenses. And we must rethink that. And it, like I said, it's not just the police. The departments of state security have responsibility to work together in this election security committee and make sure that they are able to pass intelligence in a way that regulates these people. What is the challenge in Nigeria? This challenge in Nigeria is that we had 2019 election. We had crisis in many states. As we speak today, there is nobody that is in court. The police said they had 2,000 cases. Eventually, they gave INEC only 12 files. And as we speak now, not even the 12 files have been prosecuted. So we have a very funny attitude to election and election crime. And even the law. The law itself is a wrist on the palm in terms of how we deal with crimes during election. And it's not just for 2019. 2015, the Sheikh Lemu Committee on Electoral Violence produced a report. As we speak today, white paper has been produced, nobody has been prosecuted. So until we change our attitude, the politicians will begin to think that they can get scot-free. And once people have a feeling that there is no deterrent, then the incentive to commit a crime will be higher. But for Edo, we need to factor in the traditional rulers. The traditional institution, the moral institutions will need to come in at this time to take leadership in terms of the conversation around peace. And why do I say that? They are respected. They have prestige if they begin to really play roles, not just courtesy visit of, getting blessings and all of those things, but coming out in churches, in mosques, in traditional areas and saying, look, we want you to understand that at the end of all of this, the Edo people will have a life to live after now. And I think that is the moral institutions that will need to come in. The civil society organizations themselves must lift themselves above the sentiments of the politicians, because what is happening is that people hide under one finger, whereas they pretend that they are neutral. You see that through their social media commentaries, you find out that they are partisan, they are implicated really, and their ability to then lift themselves above the shenanigans of the politicians become very difficult. So the civil society actors in Edo, the civil society actors in the country who are interested in the Edo election must be. Then the media, the narrative also, the kind of narrative that we put out can be an incentive for crisis. What do I mean by that? If you've done a media content analysis of the things that are playing out in Edo, you will see people talking about who is strong. We use that language and say, this person, this particular person is very strong. He has capacity for this and that. We need to neutralize all of that, because our bigger job as media and civil society is to inspire confidence in the electorate and let them know that they own this process. The politicians...
Yeah, sorry, clarify this. When you refer to the media, are you referring to the traditional media or the unregulated social media largely?
If you listen to radio, what I do when I travel is that I make sure that you listen to radio commentaries within what you call, what do you call them, popular programs.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I'm sorry to get to leap in here. Unfortunately, we also have some unregulated territory, particularly on phone-in shows on radio.
No, that's what I'm saying. But in doing that, you know that, Kingsley, if you are talking to me here, your questions will give me a lead into how your mind is working. And if it's important that we're able to drive in that those who mold opinion, those who have responsibility as gatekeepers of information must be able to distill and understand that they have a bigger role to ensure that we rein in. The politicians are in a competitive enterprise. Okay? If the regulators, if those who have responsibility do not shout them down and ask them to understand that they do not even own the state, and that the percentage of those of them who are contesting this election and driving the process is infinitesimal if you take the population of the state. So they need to understand that they have a very small role to play. But if we bring civil society, we bring the moral institutions, like I said, and we have a more vigilant, a more coordinated, a less territorial security architecture, where people don't claim territories and want to win victories and be the one that is shining. If they coordinate and work together, we are going to see a much more peaceful Edo election than what the story is giving us now.
We really appreciate this elaborate explanation that you've made. That goes to show that you have carefully studied the Edo scenario, especially when election is just by the corner. One of the issues you raised is the issue of civil society and traditional institutions being co-opted in ensuring that the atmosphere is heavily diluted, before the election proper. And I'm happy that the two gentlemen who are representing the two parties in Edo State listened to what Ezemanwago had to say, because that touches really on the fabric of your existence as a political party and your participation in an election. But right now I want to bring in the Commissioner of Police. Commissioner of Police, I still believe that you engage in intelligence gathering. You also believe in traditional institutions and the civil society. From what everyone has said, it does appear that if all these institutions are not co-opted in ensuring security in Edo State, there's going to be a problem. Now, what is your plans? What is the template that you have, to ensure that all institutions that are concerned about this election, whether political or apolitical, are involved in ensuring that we're going to have a hitch-free, a violence-free election in Edo State? If you don't have a template yet, do you intend to do that in the nearest future? Because, of course, we have about 7 weeks away to the election.
Thank you very much. Currently, the Inspector General of Police, IGP Abubakar Adamu, had actually put in place the community policing project. And the essence of the community policing project is for every police command to have representatives of various communities participating in policing their own affairs. So in this project, we have the traditional rulers playing very, very important role in policing the environment. All members of the society, the various interest groups are represented, and this, of course, remains a veritable source of intel to the police. So we are not leaving the communities out of it. We are not leaving the traditional rulers out of it. We are engaging different groups of people within in policing. So, and beyond that, we also have the ISIS. The ISIS, this is an interagency security consultative committee where the resident electoral commissioner, the REC, is the chairman, and the police commissioner, the co-chair. We have also as members the representatives of the department, state security. We have representatives of other security agencies. We meet regularly from time to time to see what we can possibly put in place. And intel, as I said, has been so important, and we place premium on it.
CP Kokumo, thank you. We'll return to the hardcore security issues in a moment, but I still want to stay with you gentlemen in Benin, both Chris and Washington, PDP and APC. When Washington was responding, he did say that you gentlemen, you are quite familiar with each other, with one another, in politics, particularly of the Fourth Republic. Now, I want to get from your perspective, gentlemen, beginning first with Chris Naihari. What is different now in 2020? Because just 4 years ago, without meaning any disrespect to the other 15 or so candidates who are participating in this election, you had the two leading candidates in the 2020 election who were also the two leading candidates in 2016. Zeyamu was for PDP and Obaseki was for APC. Now they have switched sides, just like players who would go from Barcelona, or hardly ever, to Real Madrid. But let's say the competition, the so-called El Clasico, you have players who are switching. And more importantly, the two front runners are also of the same ethnic stock. So what makes all this different that now there's this looming threat, if not actual violence already ahead of the voting?
Thank you very much. I think we also understand the history. You see, APC was very, very factionalized a few months ago. And within the APC, there were various factions fighting for space and destroying things, throwing bombs here and there, and all that. I think that is where the origin of this thing started. Now, the governor, being tired of the kind of violence that was within the APC, switched party to PDP, where there was a lot of peace and there's compassion. But unfortunately, within APC, I don't know if they've been able to resolve the internal struggle for power within that party. And I think that is majorly the reason for this tension, or seemingly tension, in Edo State. PDP, our election, our primaries was seamless, where we picked up Obaseki as our candidate. And our party is traditionally a peaceful one, where even our last president, which is what we use all the time now, said his election is not worth the blood of any Nigerian. And that is our mantra. We've always operated and talked along those terms, and it's something we instill on all our supporters, both the youths, women, and men. So we find it very disheartening that at this time again, there's a lot of tension that is unnecessary. I think this tension actually began when the video which my brother dismissed a few minutes ago, when that video was released, where a candidate of the APC visited some youths who described themselves as lions and tigers. And in that video, it told them clearly on video, and everybody's aware of that, and I've seen that, that some of you are so dangerous that even from moving from unit to unit, you can move from ward to ward and even to local government. And the question we ask is to do what? On election day, there's supposed to be restriction of movement. You are supposed to remain where you are voting. But you see a leading candidate encouraging people to go and disrupt the election. And the aim and essence of that was to instill fear on Edo people, to instill that violence was imminent so that they don't come out to vote on that day. But our governor, Governor Obaseki, and our party, our advocacy is that everybody should come out, and we have an implicit confidence in the police and the security agencies to maintain peace and order on election day. We want these people to come out to vote. We want them to be able to vote freely without intimidation, without fear. And that is the essence of government. And the government is providing such conditions and such cover to telling people that you are safe in Edo State. We believe that the elections, like Ezenwa said, will be not as violent as they portend right now. But we cannot take it for granted. We have to work very hard to make sure everything is done in a peaceful and orderly manner.
Mr. Naihai, thank you very much there for your response. I would like Washington Osifo to also respond to that. What is different now between 2016 and 2020? Same leading candidates, different political platforms, same ethnic stock, they are both Benin. So what's different now?
Well, I'll tell you, what is different is not similar from what I said before. I told you as a political student or student of politics, analysis is also my area of specialization. And in doing that, I've been able to put parties, place them side by side. And I can say, so to speak, that from 1999, we all started from PDP. We began to break into other political parties. And today, APC is here and PDP is still there. What it means is that we have been a family. Naikari, my dear brother here, cannot say he doesn't know me. He knows me. I think he wouldn't want me dead. Naikari knows my ideologies. He wants me to go and further my ideologies so that I can contribute to societal development. I wish him same. When we are going for campaigns, we meet each other. It has always been so. We meet each other on the way. We tease each other, buy fuel, refill our vehicles in filling stations. We tease each other and we just move on. Now, in 2016, what was different was that we brought in a man who was neither known to APC or PDP. Then the then governor, Comrade Adams Ali Oshomole, forced him on us. We rejected even in our party because we didn't know him. He was alien to us. And we also suggested that as an alien man who knew nothing about the environment and a political family, there is the possibility that it was going to be a danger, and make us an endangered species as political parties and players of politics. But that came to bear. Immediately he was sworn in. Now, because he was not in charge, that was why that election was peaceful. Comrade Adams Ali Oshomole, was then governor, and that was why I said the peace in a society will suggest, so to speak, on the extent of submission that the leadership of any group subscribes to. If he subscribes to peace, then certainly the followers will do the same. But if he subscribes to violence in an attempt to please a vociferous leader, all manners of persons who pretend or masquerade to be supporting him will hide under that guise, to be doing all manners of things. And it becomes a problem to the Nigerian police. And that is why I said, my brother here, the CP, is doing so well, great guy, but I do not envy his job. Now, what is different? What is different is Godwin Obaseki. Then, in 2016, he was not governor, he was alien to the political family and the politics of Edo State. Today, he's sitting as the pilot, the governor. And he thinks that as a governor, he must win election, including introducing violence. And like my brother said, yes, I agree with him. APC had its problem yesterday, and Nigerians, these are not new facts before Nigerians. Now, I am not just reinventing the wheel. The wheel has always been there, and we have spoken against this violence in our political party. And my brother there, who is the publicity secretary publicity secretary of the PDP, I do not also envy his job because he's a man of good conscience. But unfortunately, he has a duty to defend his party. But only yesterday, this same governor, Obaseki, who orchestrated this bomb throwing that he talks about, annihilation of opposite views within his political parties and all of that, and stopping and standing on the head of democracy, where he allowed minority to be sworn in at nocturnal hour over and above majority, which PDP condemned entirely at that time. Now, today, does that mean that the man who was violent in our party, because he moved to a political party, another sister political party, PDP, then his character has changed? No. If Grant moves from Edo and proceeds to Lagos, it accumulates there at grounds, and it makes all journeys from Edo to Lagos futile, because ground in Edo is also ground in Lagos. Therefore, the different person that is orchestrating this violence is Godwin Obaseki, the governor of Edo State. He needs to be told that as a governor, it is his responsibility to protect life and property. And who is he going to govern? And will it also be disappointing to think that he came to power, God forbid that he comes a second time, that he came to power with the barrels of the guns? And what he must know, that I've always discussed with political security chiefs, is that when you buy guns and other dangerous weapons for supporters to support you win election, the truth is that when you get there, you will be the first to close your doors against them, because you know the bad ones, and you will not want the bad ones around you. But you have used them, and the goodbye or package that you have given to them are the weapons you gave to them. They will use that weapon to terrorize the society you are governing. And at the end of the day, you cannot empower the police to go after them, because you are the one who put them on that street. And it becomes a problem to the police. And you keep on taking your security votes upstairs, because it becomes very dangerous to sit around or do business around your society. So for me, power belongs to God. And the APC is a very quiet, responsible party that took its umbilical cord in terms of brotherhood and conviviality from the PDP. Very many of us, 95% of us, were from PDP. So we know each other. I repeat, I cannot do harm to my brother Nekari, because he knows me. Osage Izayamu, our candidate, knows all of us. He knows the Danobis of this world. He knows the Ogbesias of this world. He knows the Imasoge of this world. We have always played politics together. We attend each other's birthday. We attend each other's wedding. We attend each other. So it is only Godwin that has been alien to all of us. And because it was a problem in APC, he has taken that same problem and violence to PDP. But one thing I want to assure you is that I have joined Nekari, my brother here. And in the same spirit, PDP and APC, the old allies, the big family, we are joining each other. We have identified this person. And I can assure you, by the grace of God, those states will be very peaceful in the forthcoming election. We love ourselves. We will not kill ourselves. We will not empower people against the state to do or unleash mayhem on our people, the one we seek to rule, But the truth is that, like I said, this man, the CP, is doing a great job. I commend him. But we, all Nigerians, must speak to the conscience of the governor to tell him that power belongs to God. And those who get to power by the barrels of the guns cannot go to sleep with their two eyes closed.
All right, Washington Osa Osifo, earlier on, when you first responded to our question, Kingsley did advise, that you cease from calling names and allegations and what have you, because Baseki is not on the panel this morning, to respond to what you are saying. So it will be much better, for us to have this conversation without allegations and counter allegations and what have you. You can make your points without making references to what the governor said and did and all of that. He is also from Benin. And if you say that PDP and APC have been one family, that you know each other, of course, he's part of it. If he says alien, that means maybe he came from Enugu State, where I come from, but he is from Benin as well. So please, let's keep it at that. But we have had you,
in particular, we also have to say this. We have no evidence that Governor Obaseki is instigating violence.
Exactly, and that he's buying guns for thugs and all of that. So it is not acceptable, really, on this platform to do that. And again, you are campaigning for your party. You are going to pay us if you continue to campaign for your party for this very election. Well, that's just on the sunny side of life. But We have had you. Now, let's come back to Abuja here. Please, I want you to dissect the two responses from both persons, the PDP and the APC. Because from what also Osifo had just said, it does appear that there's a looming war, really, you know. I accept the fact that he said that, look, they knew each other, they do things together, attend each other's weddings and the birthdays and all of that. But then there is still something, you know, that he has not told us, which is what we're trying to untie this morning. What could lead to violence in Edo? And if he says that Edo has not known violence in politics, we may not be able to, we may not agree to that. Because why did Edo fall out of a normal election cycle? What was the reason? The reason is because of perhaps, well, if you don't call it violence, it's because, of course, something happened along the line, you know, and you fell out of the election cycle. So it is not normal to be having your elections now, right? So Edo cannot be said to be very free from violence or some misunderstandings and, you know, about elections in Nigeria. So, please come in here.
Yeah, Chief Kilian, I think you need to appreciate the fact that when we say that Edo is not, you see, when a narrative, when we continue to build a narrative, the two elections that we hold in September and October are court-ordered elections.
Exactly.
It could be. There are many other infractions in elections. It could be overvoting. It could be so many things. So we must situate it. The characterization of Edo as violent is demarketing that state, and I think it is not healthy. I find it very repulsive because I've actually been involved in Edo election over a period of time, and I know, and I can say it very authoritatively, that it is like a boxing match. The contenders in the boxing match, I'm going to give you technical knockout. I will. But if the regulator, let's make that very clear. You see, Chris, Washington, if you allow them from now till the close of day today, the language will be identifying what puts the other party, even if it is, you know, subtly done, but it's a campaign period. So, but we have to focus our attention on who has responsibility to ensure that these people do not go overboard, that they do not carry this kind of, both in terms of language, the language that they use, because
the rhetoric
can be tamed. There are people who have that responsibility, like you have just done here now. If you saw the way the language is gravitating and you are calling people to order, that's how some other person has responsibility, and that person is the security agencies. They have enormous role to play, and I'm situating what I've identified or we've identified as a problem as what kind of attitude does everyone in Nigeria have towards election. If I live here now and somebody slaps me, I will take the person to the police. The police will act immediately. But if there was an election here, they say, I beg, what is that? Is this PDP, APC people, I beg. You know, both the police, everybody is infused in that mindset. But if we begin to treat crime, every crime, and I mean it, every crime, no matter what time that crime is committed, because all that is playing, if you can find libel in this now. In the conversation, there is libel. You can know what I'm saying is that you can identify libel, you can identify whatever. If the person who has issues says, "Look, you have libel, you have assassinated my character," and go to the police, and police arrest somebody, the next time when people come to talk, they will talk with a lot of circumspection. I'm just using this as an example, but the point that I'm making is that if we continue to focus on the behavior of the politicians during election, we may not get the kind of results that we're looking. We must galvanize. Let me tell you what has happened. The access the Commissioner of Police talked about behaves in a very ritualistic manner. What is ritual? Oh, the Commissioner of Police is the co-chair, the INEC chairman, the INEC resident electoral commissioner. We've had this before, but when we say invigorate, what it means is that we must see this access playing frontal role now in terms of his ability to what? To share intel. His ability, the State Security Service cannot just be a member of the security committee. It has to be able to say, we got information that some people will do something in front of the Oba's palace. The police should quickly ensure that that doesn't happen. If you don't do that, and then after the fact, you start telling us that you have met, that you are always meeting, and you are holding meetings, it's not going to help the process. So I am saying invigorate access in a way that it is. Now, INEC as the big referee must also not just wait for election period. The pre-election environment is going to be a lead-off to what will happen. So INEC has a role. The political party monitoring department of INEC, the operations people should not just wait to take materials to Edo. This is all the time now. This is the time for everybody to get into Edo and begin to work the different stakeholders that have responsibility for peace. And we have identified one or two. And when I say traditional institutions, I'm not talking about paying a visit. This is the ritual that we do all the time. We go to them and then we say, oh, we came to visit you, please ensure. I'm saying now that empower them. There is a way you can empower them to call community engagement, to involve in community engagement, give them incentive to do that, to be able to have this
You're making this point for the second time, Ezenwa. The Oba of Benin and the Benin Traditional Council have already issued the statements on the conduct of parties and politicians ahead of this election. And that was on the heels of what happened at the gate to the palace. So that's probably a first step in the invocation of the moral institutions to which you refer. You know, Ezenwa, I had asked the two gentlemen in our Benin studios, that's the PDP and APC, what is different between 2020 and 2016? I believe we had you as a guest on Good Morning Nigeria, yes. Either before or after the 2016 election. Yes. Now, the two gentlemen also agreed that, well, yes, they have interconnections amongst them, and elections often turn out to be relatively more peaceful in Edo than anywhere else. In 2016, same two leading candidates, same two political parties, on voting day, what we saw, I mean, some persons can say, okay, this is the softer infringement of electoral laws. It was puff-puff. They were, frying puff-puff and akara. It was a festival that they were having. And then some persons said they also saw chairmen, chairmen. But it wasn't the kind of crisis that we are seeing now with threat of the importation of thugs from different parts of the state. People went to cast their vote. The votes were counted. The results declared, and of course they said, "All right, so be it. Let's go on." What is bringing this new coloration aside from what the two gentlemen have said from our Benin studios? As I said, same candidates, same political parties.
Well, if you see, it's the political commentary in the Endo environment is the thin line between enabling anyone is very thin. So the safe place for me is to say that you used football for the example. If you change a club, your attitude to the trophy is now what matters. Because yes, people have changed places, but you have incumbency playing, okay? And the challenge to that incumbency, obvious challenge to that incumbency, has put a more tensed, a more desperate situation, both for people to prove a point. There is somebody who wants to prove a point that, look, I am the governor, I left this place to this place and nothing can happen, I will win. The other party will say, let me teach this man that, that having left us, that he cannot. So that challenge is huge. But Kingsley, let's take it clearly that nothing can change this situation in the real sense, in terms of the ability of people. All that we need to do is to say, look, these are the rules. The rules are very clear as to, irrespective of what has played, how you joined this club or how you did not join this club, what are the issues. But the rule of the game did not change. If the referee will not wear the jersey of any of the contestants, if the match commissioners, in this case the security agents, will make a call when they should make a call, if all stakeholders are engaged in understanding the dynamics that is at play in Edo and the nature of the contest that is going to take place because of this environment that you've talked about, if we all agree, because there must be that consensus that we want a peaceful election irrespective of what has played, and that thing that has played will lead us into September 19th. But I keep insisting that if the churches, the mosque, I know that there's a bishop in Cross River who said, look, if during the election, if you do this, we will not give you Holy Communion. He openly announced it, that if you behave in a particular way, we will discommunicate you from our church. We will. Those kind of moral persuasion helps in restraining people. We must call up all of that. That's the point that I'm making. Edo will not change in its complexioning, political complexioning, because of how the candidates have emerged. But if the rules are maintained, and incidentally, they have a very cerebral police commissioner who understands, who beyond just
dynamics.
Yes, who just beyond being a commissioner understands the dynamics. In engaging him, I saw that. If we are able to place a lot of store on making him, drive this security engagement in a way that is embracing, because what will happen is that everybody is cutting him, but whether the PDP or APC, all of the infractions that you are seeing, is not the one who shouts the most that is free. Don't get carried away by their language. The both political parties are engaged in what they are accusing each other of. The scale may be different, but the truth of the matter is that the regulator, which is the police and the moral institutions that I talk, must weigh in on them to ensure that they behave well.
Exactly. You know why Nigerians are really concerned about the Edo election? It's not because of the historical antecedents of election in that state. Perhaps some of the elections, went without as much violence as people expected. But what is playing out presently, it just shows that, look, violence is looming. Accusations have come in that, look, some people are buying guns. Some people are using,
I talked about steering the water for the fish.
Exactly.
There's a reason I tell you that. You see, the higher this narrative, the more the bargain. Okay. You understand? When they create this temperature that you see,
yes,
it raises the bargain both for the actors. Okay. No, the actors. This election will be very violent. There's a need for us to acquire something. Exactly. And all of this is political economy. Exactly. There's a political economy that is driving that narrative.
And what should be looking at, all of us should be looking at presently, is, of course, the level of commitment of both parties to have this election peacefully. That's just what we're talking about. Civilized in Edo State. That's what we're preaching about. But, well, we're going to take a short break now. When we come back, we will return to Benin to talk to the two reps of the two political parties, in Edo State. Of course, to respond to other questions that we're going to ask with respect to finding out, whether they are really prepared to have a peaceful election in that state. This is Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we will continue with the conversation.
All right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, Kira, before we went on that short break, you said you were going to ask our guest in Benin some questions. I just wanted to reference the soccer analogy that Ezenwa referred to. Earlier, we're talking about the El Clasico, usually Barcelona and Real Madrid. There's actually perhaps a more apt example to give, even in Edo State. The gentleman there, Washington and Chris, I wouldn't know whether you were a soccer enthusiast, but we used to have two rival clubs in Benin, Bendel Insurance and New Nigeria Bank. Very rarely did New Nigeria Bank defeat Bendel Insurance. And we used to say then that if you changed all the players, put brought them from Bendel Insurance to New Nigeria Bank, and brought New Nigeria Bank to Bendel Insurance. New Nigeria Bank cannot defeat Bendel Insurance. And there was a great player for Bendel Insurance. His name was Peter Igarewa. He was a striker. He actually scored a goal against Enugu Rangers in the FA Cup of 1978. That goal destroyed Enugu Rangers, by the way. Kyrian, you also had your rivalry. No, it's Peter. Everybody knows.
What about the one they just scored against them?
No, it was 3-0. Rangers didn't score on that occasion. It was 3-0. I'm sure. It's 3-0. Peter Igarewa and Harry Ogboy. They destroyed the Enugu Rangers on that particular occasion. So Peter Igarewa left Bendel Insurance and went to New Nigeria Bank. So one match they played at Ogbe Stadium, I wasn't there, I read the report. The headline at the back page of the Nigerian Observer was, Chief, they put Chief in quotes, Chief Igarewa sinks insurance. Bendel Insurance supporters were all crestfallen. So maybe that's the analogy that is played out in Edo State. Kyrian.
All right, gentlemen in Edo, let me begin with the PDP spokesperson. Now, everybody is working towards having a peaceful election in the Edo State. What role will your party play in this direction? Are you assuring Nigerians that Edo will not boil as people are anticipating?
Yeah, I think before I answer that question, I think I should just make a little remark. The governor schooled in Edo State. The governor is one of us. He's been here, and he attends, even when he was in APC, when he was serving as the chairman of economic team. He visited me, attended my mother's funeral, and came for parties and birthdays. He's just not a noisemaker. He's been one of us, and he has integrated more than people want to say. I think I use the word integrated. He is one of us. He's from Edo. The narrative that is not one of us is actually one of the reasons that people find it very hard to understand why the bitterness, why the desperation to not castigate a governor. And then the issue of buying guns, I think reject it, and the governor is not in his character to even get involved in such a matter at all. The governor is a simple person that believes in the development and growth of Edo State, that wants to turn Edo State to an economic hub in West Africa, and is doing a great job at that. And that's one of the reasons why we have taken him. Is the economic prudence and management of funds is unparalleled. So these are the issues for this election, not creating a narrative of violence and him being involved in that. He is not. He's a great man, I use that word. And for the issue of violence in election in Edo State, PDP has been educating our youth. And that is one of the reasons why the government is building an education system where the youths are trained in such a way that this issue of thuggism is not in their vocabulary. Training them to make sure that for the future, letting them know that the education is the cornerstone of the future, and building up a system whereby everybody is well taken care of. We are not involved and will never be involved in anything that will be violent during an election. We believe in one man, one vote. We believe in letting people choose and have a choice to choose who governs them. We are not going to impose anybody on them, and Edo people do not want to be imposed upon. That is the issue. From the PDP angle and from the angle of the state governor, Edo State will be peaceful. I will not encourage anyone to try to intimidate or scare the people away on election day. This is the message we are selling to our people, that the voter's card is their weapon to be used on election day to vote again for PDP and Governor Obaseki.
All right, Washington Osa Osifo, let's hear from you with respect to what your party intends to do to ensure that Edo will have a peaceful election in September.
First, permit me to try to put the record straight. Kyrian, I listened to you when you try to put before us that the reason why violence was probably responsible for the reason why Edo election is not in the normal circle. Yes, my brother responded to that, but you must know that Edo conducted election in 2007, 2008. The matter went to court, and the other political party, as it then was, the ACN, won. Therefore, it took it away from the circle, not because of violence, but because of irregularities in voting and all of that, and the court found that way, and that is what it is. So we are not a violent people. But let me also say that I want to commend the crew there for that what looks like a forensic analysis. I think talking about the football and all of that, on the lighter note, it brought some sigh of relief on all of us, and we also laughed. But the major problem we have in this country, that is also playing out this morning, I want to tell you, is the inability to have the courage to speak truth to power, irrespective of the political party you belong to. If we as a people begin to thrive on this insincerity to our people, where you castigate a man in position simply because he's not in your political party, the moment he crosses over, he's baptized, and it becomes good, then it's a problem. The PDP, before Godwin Obaseki moved from APC to PDP only yesterday, were, avowed critics of Godwin Obaseki. And I can tell you, one of the things they criticized, which my brother here as the spokesman of PDP was noted for, both on prints and electronics, was that the man was not doing well as a governor. Now, it is on record, and I'm particularly disturbed this morning, that because he has crossed to the PDP, then just in a few days, he now knows Godwin Obaseki in different ways, different from what he said against him for 3.5 years. For me, I find that a society that wants to move forward should not behave that way. We are leaders, and we must be responsible to speak truth to power. If I said he was bad yesterday, and he has come to my party, the only thing I can say is that he didn't do well when he was there, but now that he's here, if we baptize him very well in the way we do our things, we believe that he can do well. That is a more honorable thing to say than to say that, the man you said was not doing well. In area of education, you criticized him. In area of water provision, employment, generation, and peace, and whatever, you scored him 0. Today, you have scored him above board. Is the best. I think that is not the best way to go. Having said that, I also listened to him when he said the candidate of my party, Pastor Osage Izeyamu, in a magisterial manner, he was telling the men, according to him, tigers and lions, to go into the streets and disrupt the elections and all of that. An election that you will win, that Osage Izeyamu, by the grace of God, and the APC knows we will win. All we can but tell our people at this time is to go all out, sell your manifestos in a peaceful, responsible manner to the Edo people, convince them, so that they can vote for you. And when they do vote for you, protect your votes. That was exactly, I was in that rally. That was exactly what Osage Izeyamu told the people. He said, now you have come to me in Benin. The truth is that you all belong to one constituency or one ward or unit across the entire 192 wards of the state, 18 local government of the state, 3 senatorial districts. Please, when you live here, go to your location. Go and tell the people that they must vote, sell our agendas to them. And when they do vote, let them wait and protect their votes. So if words are capable of giving several interpretations, including what my brother today has given it to in favor of PDP or whatever, but it does not change the narratives because the video is there. So for me, what I'm worried about is that my name is Washington Osifo. I am from Benin descent. It is not in my character, having head office and sworn to oath, in several capacity, to uphold the integrity of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And as a trained lawyer, one thing the governor knows me for, because we were both in ESCO, he knows that I'm a man of courage. I will speak truth to power. It doesn't really matter. One thing, Comrade Adams Ali Oshomole, the then governor and the then national chairman, knows me for that. Even in his council, when I was commissioner for education, I had the capacity to challenge government policies, even in ESCO, that I didn't like. So for me, some of them in our society here will say, Washington, you don't talk as if you are a member of this political party. You talk more like an activist. The truth is that office is tenured. Even if you have the 8 years to live, one day you will become former. I have seen so many former. Why don't let us behave like responsible men who have love for fellow men, knowing that when this is over, we will come to the normal family and live in the normal society. So for me, I'm recommending very strongly to my brother that the generation of next, to take it to a rest squarely on our shoulders. And we must have the courage, if this election must be peaceful, we must have the courage to speak truth to power. The best thing you can give to your brother, your fellow brother, is the advice to tell him where he's going wrong and say, don't go in this direction. If that is done in our own little family, when I say little family, APC, PDP, or any political party, then we would have gotten it right. But if we say we are telling our principal because he's governor, or we are telling our candidate because he will be the governor to say, bro, just go all out, do whatever you want to do, we will be advising them in the wrong manner. And when they do get there, because we baked them in the spirit of violence, They cannot do peace other than violence, because you cannot come to the throne, I repeat, by the barriers of the guns and through violence, and the people will be expecting you to give them peace, because you will not be able to give what you don't have. So I want to assure you today that in line with our avowed spirit of fellowship to all and malice to none, although election will be peaceful, we will all join the CP. And I'm also calling on you, the media. I am calling on Louis Edet House, the IG, and whoever to support this man here that is doing tremendous job. I'm talking about the Commissioner of Police. Give him all it takes. Give him the moral support, whatever support that he needs. And don't you allow this thing to overwhelm him. And for the politicians, I'm speaking to all of us, we must know that this is our state. Our children are watching. You cannot say you are investing in education, okay, and you are cultivating them in ways that will be responsible, and you, the leaders, are irresponsible. Then you are confusing them. If you teach them education and manners, you must, in action and in practical sense of it, demonstrate responsibility, and because the best way to learn is to act. So therefore, the actors of political parties, both in APC and PDP and other political parties, must know that Edo is ours to protect. Our children are watching us. We must behave like responsible fathers and mothers, and so that Edo can truly be peaceful and safe. But I assure you, by the grace of God.
All right, Washington Osifo, thank you very much there for your response. I want to ask CP Kukumo again. Well, there are assurances already of peaceful conduct ahead of the elections and also on voting day and thereafter, and that Edo, of course, just might be able to regain its peace. But there is a view that has also been expressed that part of the heated rhetoric that Edo has witnessed has actually come from outside of the state. Some of those statements have been widely reported. And along with that is the view that perhaps, yes, if the gladiators in the state decide to remain peaceful, others might wish to then import in troublemakers from locations that are sometimes also notorious for this. Are you factoring this into your intel gathering and therefore using that as part of your architecture to frustrate the potential importation of hotheads from elsewhere other than Edo State?
Thank you very much. Let me put on record that the various security agencies we have in Edo State, there is this cooperation, synergy and cooperation amongst all the security agencies. And before now, we had intel concerning the possible, will I say, importation of criminal elements to disrupt the peace in Edo State, particularly immediately before, during the elections. And on our part, as security agencies, we have held meetings and we have put in place measures to ensure that criminal elements who are planning to make incursion from contiguous states, and of course some other states are kept completely off here, and we have equally sent messages across to them that Edo State is not a haven for criminals. So therefore, those of them we are able to lay hands on will not be spared, and definitely we will have to process them before the courts. We do not entertain any fear concerning those criminal elements. Not only criminal elements who are planning to come in and foment trouble for purpose of politics, even criminal elements that may even be thinking of coming in to foment troubles in some other areas. So we are very much aware of this, and we are actually leaving no stone unturned to ensure that we put in check their activities.
Okay, we actually would like you to put it in check, as you said. It's very important because importing persons from outside Edo for this election will be counterproductive. May I, before I bring in Ezenwawagu, inform Osifo that I did not really mean that it was because of violence that you fell out of election cycle. There are other infractions as well. We also agree that, generally in Nigeria, elections are elections are relatively, engulfed in violence of some sort, right? So I want to appreciate your comment too on that. Now, back here, let's bring in Ezenwa Wago. Ezenwa, as your final thought on this conversation, now look at the entire contributions of all the guests, and of course, lead us into what is likely going to play out in this election in Edo State.
Thank you very much. I'm not thinking of what will play out. I will think of what needs to be done. We need to wear out the politicians, and the way to wear them out so that they don't have too much time for incendiary rhetoric is to make this issue based. How do you make it issue based? The Nigerian Union of Journalists, the Nigerian Medical Association, professional organizations should begin to arrange town halls. NUT. The school situation is this now. Mr. Governors, you are interested in running for office, please come tell us, this is the state of education. What will you do? 1, 2, 3, 4 things in the next 4 years. NMA, this is the state of health in Edo State. We want you to do X, Y, Z. If these town halls are populated in a way that these candidates, 18 of them or thereabout, can comfortably every time be focused on talking about what they will do, and then there is some kind of follow up on that by these associations and groups. We are going to wear them out in a way that the incendiary rhetorics will come down. But the challenge is that we are all aloof. We are aloof. Our analysis of the election is not programmatic. There is no charter of demand. There is no citizen charter of demand. We allow them to dictate the narrative. They are the one to dictate when they are going to talk, what they are going to say, and how they are going to say it. But we can reverse that now by getting these associations to say, look, on so and so day, Mr. Governors, not just the debate, not the ritualistic debate, but town hall meetings where it can be engaging and you can distill out something for which you can track them when they... We talk about holding people accountable. If you didn't give a man an assignment, you cannot hold him accountable. Let's begin to give assignments to the politicians.
The template to prefer now is just for Edo State or, generally for Nigerian election.
This is my attitude too. We are just aloof. We are not interested.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't care. We allow the politicians to be the one driving all the narrative. But these associations exist and they bemoan the state of things.
And they're not playing active role.
We think it is for politicians. But just conceptual, think about it, that NUT, who are on the ground in terms of primary education in the state, will call the governor and call all the governorship aspirants in the state and say, this is what we want you to do.
Will they respond to the call? That's another thing.
They can't be made to respond to the call.
That's an interesting point that Ezenwa has made, but sometimes you also have to look at the composition of a number of these otherwise valuable pressure groups. Some of them, of course, rely on sustenance.
I'm
not saying from the government, but rely on sustenance from certain sources. And therefore, but it's a point that can be interrogated.
Yes.
Assuming the local chapter is weakened, then the national umbrella body can then weigh in and use the instrumentality. But it's a key point to get away with the issues.
There are no two ways about it. Most of those associations depend on government to survive. So calling on
government, the resources is not that of the individual. Yes. When you say government, if you buy a bus for NUT, or you provide their leadership with institutional support, you provide them institutional support. That is not anything.
Be able to talk.
You must be able to talk. You must be able to talk.
All right, Ezenwa, thank you very much indeed. Actually, some of us who participated in NUJ will tell that when the governor gives you a boss, of course, you don't have a say when it comes to interrogating his actions. I'm telling you, to be honest with you.
That boss into a trusted service.
All right, Kingsley, we have actually come to the end of this program, and it's time for us to now appreciate our guests, who made it possible for us to have a good and healthy conversation on the issue of the election that will take place in September. Chris Nehekare, spokesman, People's Democratic Party of Nigeria, Edo State, we thank you so much for being part of this conversation. And again, Washington Osa Osifo of the APC, we also appreciate your comments, and we're advising that you take it easy and get election done violence-free. Thank you indeed. And Commissioner of Police in the state, we'd also like to appreciate you for being part of our program. That's John Babatunde Kokumo. We thank you indeed for your contributions this morning. And Ezenwa Wago, who's a regular on our show, we appreciate your being here, and thank you for your insights, especially with the last comment you made. It's very interesting, and Kingsley said it can be interrogated.
All right, on that note, we'd like to appreciate all our viewers for tuning in. The program returns tomorrow, same time, 7 in the morning. Stay safe, be well. I'm Kingsley Sadolo.
I am Kirian Umayo. You have a great day.